This is just a general warning. The gameplay you will see from this video is using a fan translation patch for the game Valkyria Chronicles 3. There is no official English release of Valkyria Chronicles 3. Please refrain from discussing methods on how to acquire the game or play the game in English in the comments section. I will remove those comments with the quickness. I will, however, be more than happy to answer those questions in a private message. So, with that little tidbit out the way, let's get started with the review. Valkyria Chronicles is a game that I absolutely fell in love with. When it first released in 2008, it brought about a new gameplay style that just clicked with me. Characters that was serious and a bit down to earth. A setting that was sort of real and had a distinct look using cel-shaded graphics that just melded everything well together. Now the game became a hit on the PS3 and is till this day in my top 5 JRPGs of all time. Now 2 years later in 2010, a sequel, Valkyria Chronicles 2, was released, but it didn't click well with me. Its characters just scream cliche and its setting in a school academy really didn't sit well with me, and it took the series to the PSP, downgrading its graphics and the look that I fell head over heels for. However, it still had the same great gameplay that I loved from the first entry, added more elements to make it even better, but that couldn't stop me from downright hating the characters or loathing the setting. I honestly think it's the first RPG that I completely neglected based on story and characters alone. Now maybe it was because I held the first game in such high esteem and my heart was just crushed when the second game took such a typical route, so I skipped the entry entirely. Now fast forward a year later in 2011, the third entry in the series was announced, Valkyria Chronicles 3, and it was still on the PSP, something that I couldn't figure out, but there are theories to that. But just by looking at the characters and the general atmosphere of it in the trailers, I just knew this game would go back to having the same tone and feel as the first game. But alas, due to poor sales of Valkyria Chronicles 2, it didn't see a release outside of Japan. Now jump forward 2 years and fans bring about a translation that gives us a chance in the West to play the game in English. Now, Valkyria Chronicles 3 was once on a list of games that I wanted from Japan but never saw the light of day outside the country. But a group of dedicated people took time out of their lives to make a translation. Now, while it's not 100% translated, and as of this time only the main story is translated, and a few post-game missions are as well, the main story is all I need to fully enjoy this game. And I sincerely thank the people of this translation for the opportunity to play this game. What's going on, guys? It's Shadow Elite, and I'm bringing you a review of Valkyria Chronicles 3. Now this game takes place during the events of the first Valkyria Chronicles. The country of Gallia is invaded by Imperial forces and are fighting for a resource known as Ragnite. But this game is set in a different point of view. You are put in control of the Nameless, an off-the-record, off-the-book squad that takes on dangerous and nearly suicidal missions for the Gallian army. Now the soldiers of the Nameless are brimming with personality and charm. Even though some of them are kind of fairly typical, they have enough chemistry between them to make them very entertaining to watch. And each one has a side mission that dives deeper into their personalities. It's interesting to see how such a small and young girl or an old lady ended up being assigned to the lowest of the lowest ranks in the Gallian army. Now the Nameless don't accept the leadership of Kurt, one of the main characters and squad captain. Kurt needs to further himself and better understand the dynamics of his squad in order to become a better leader. The story carries out in a visual novel of sorts, with some unique images to help paint a better picture and some anime cutscenes that play out during crucial points in the game. The story brings about drama, love, discrimination, and betrayal. It brings these elements closely together in a very entertaining fashion, something that I couldn't take my eyes off of and made playing the game all the way to the end all the more better. Now the music has always fit the tone of the Valkyria Chronicles series, and the melodies for each situation fit quite nicely, I gotta say. Now the voice acting I really can't comment on because this is left in its original Japanese dub because this is a fan translation, so this is as good as any sub anime you would watch. Now, for the graphics, this is a PSP title, so I don't expect much, and to be honest, they look pretty good. You know, the character models look good. The environments are a bit varied for each location. You have your cities, you have fields, deserts, and snow terrain. Each have moderate detail and don't look too bad. Again, this is a PSP title, so I don't really expect much power in the graphics, even if it was sharper or more polished. Still looks good regardless. You know, it's just a little bit daunting that this series was once on the powerful PS3 and how good the game looks on that console, and it does make the translation to handhelds quite well, and it does it as best as it can. But, you know, I rant, I dread, you know, nothing can be done. Bottom line, for a PSP title, you can't really ask for more. Now, the game does have a tendency to recycle maps and locations, some of which are being recycled from Valkyria Chronicles 2, and it does get a little bit repetitive after a while, but never to a point where it gets to be a huge negative. Starting you off on different locations on the map, and with each map having different weather effects ranging from sunny to the darkness of the night, and lightning strikes and fog help keep each map from feeling too repetitive. But I did find myself saying, oh, back to this map again? On some occasions. Okay, so the game primarily plays out as a strategy turn-based RPG, using command points during battle to move your character to the best possible position so you can fire their weapon, throw a grenade, take cover, or capture an enemy base. Just be careful while you're moving to be mindful of landmines and enemies hiding in the grass areas, and being a bit cautious when firing weapons when some attacks, even at point-blank range, just have a tendency to flat-out miss, and that can be really frustrating at some points. Now, each character has a class that defines their role in combat. Scouts move fast and far, but have very little in power and defense. Shock troopers are, in my opinion, your bread and butter, as they can handle most enemy soldiers. Lancers take out your tanks and armored units. Now, you have more classes, each with their own sets of strengths and weaknesses, and it's your job to best pick each character and class to better suit the situation you find yourself in. You can even change any character's class before battle for some flexibility. Now, your main characters, Kurt, Inca, and Rhea, each have special actions that can aid your squad to victory. Kurt can move up to 2 units as far as he can go at the same time. Inca can target multiple enemies and take out tanks surprisingly easily. And Rhea has a special ability called the Valkyria, which pretty much makes her an unstoppable god. Now, Kurt can also issue orders that can increase squad members' accuracy, or their defense, or tank damage, or reveal enemy positions on the map. Outfitting your troops with the latest weapons and armors plays an important role, and outfitting your one and only tank is incredibly invaluable as it helps deal with various threats. It can break through huge boulders and repair bridges for easier access to enemies, and help with some weather conditions on the maps. It can even carry your troops longer distances so they can get to enemies quickly and more easier. This all amounts to a game that has a lot of thought behind it and rewards you for making smart moves, positioning your troops correctly, and using command points as efficiently as possible. Now, there is kind of a spike in difficulty with your troops, and they will be outclassed sometimes, and you might have to grind a tad to keep your squad up to snuff. And I say it's a slight problem, but nothing that can be too overwhelming. If you just be mindful of your main character's special actions and sometimes changing classes up to experiment slightly and to keep in mind Kurt's orders, it could save you some trouble in the long run. Don't be like me and forget about Kurt's orders, because God knows it could have saved me so much time if I had a character that had boosted up defense. Now, I would say more or less this is a long game. There are 20 chapters and it goes on for about 60 plus hours, I would say. I finished the game at 70 some hours clocked in. I didn't feel overly tired of the game or loathe it towards the end, as that what kinda happens with most games of this length. I'm looking at you, Project Cross Zone. And those 70 hours wasn't just me doing a lot of grinding, so the game is just flat out long no matter how you look at it. The engaging story and character missions and the many ways you can go about battles help keep the 70-hour experience fresh. Almost that same kind of fresh as that carton of milk you keep in your fridge and you pull it out one day and it's only to last 2 or 3 days before it expires. And the taste is fine, but you know it won't remain that way for much longer. Thankfully, this game doesn't pass that point. I guess if you understood that analogy. I mean, I was just shocked when I was on chapter 11 and I was 45 hours into the game. Character missions may have had an impact on my playtime, but I didn't do too many, I would say. Now, I don't want to count the game's length as a negative since I personally had much fun with it, but I can understand if people get overwhelmed after a certain point in the game. With a nice cast of likable characters, a story that makes you feel for these characters in the situations that they are forced to be a part of, gameplay that's varied with different classes for your squad, and many ways you can go about battles, Valkyria Chronicles 3 is every bit the gem I thought it was. I once again sincerely thank the fan translation team for allowing me the opportunity to play what could potentially be the last game in the series in English. There is no doubt that this game deserves a 9 out of 10 from me. You know, I just hope Sega can find the time to make another game in this series and maybe place it on the Vita, or even better yet the PS4. But that's just one dream that's probably never going to happen. And with that, I bid farewell to the Valkyria Chronicles franchise. Maybe the gaming gods will grace us with another entry to the series. Or maybe a spiritual successor would be nice. Well, I didn't play Valkyria Chronicles 2, so maybe I can stomach that right now. Well guys, that's it. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, if you're new to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.